Hello, I'm David from David Savoury Electrical, and today I'm talking about one of these. Big deal, you might say. LED GU10 lamp. Well, they're everywhere these days, of course. And it's been interesting watching the rise of the LED lamp over the last few years. The first ones I fitted were about 10 years ago, and they're still going strong in my entranceway, although they're not as bright as one of the latest fellas, and this is equivalent to a 50-watt halogen. So why the fuss about this? This is a new thing on the market. This is what they call a colour switch lamp. Interesting. I first heard about these about 2 weeks ago. I had Edmondson's phone me up to say that they had a new range of colour switch lamps made by Bell Electric, which I'm not quite sure if that's their in-house supplier or not, or if that's a brand that deals outside of Edmondson. Certainly all the Bell light bulbs I bought have always been from Edmondson. And so I was fairly intrigued, but I didn't get around to getting out to them. And then the following week, last week, I had City Electrical Factors contact me with exactly the same thing. We have a new product, a colour switch lamp. And that's what we've got here. We've got the CEF version of it. This is their own Fusion brand. So we're going to have a look at what that is tonight. Exciting times, eh? Now, anyone like me who's been installing LED lamps for the last few years will no doubt have experienced the colour temperature issue. You may or may not be aware that the LED lamps come in a range of different colour temperatures, ranging from around the sort of 3,500 Kelvin warm white, which is a very yellowy white, through the 4,500-ish Kelvin colours of cool white, right up to about 6,000 Kelvin of daylight white, and anywhere in between really. And different people like different kinds of colour temperature from their lamps. So for the most of us, we want a warm white, especially in our living areas like bedrooms, sitting room, that sort of thing. You may want a cool white somewhere that needs a cleaner, fresher look, like perhaps in a bathroom or in a kitchen. Warm white in those sort of environments can make the room look a little bit grotty. It can be a little bit too yellow, but it depends on things like the decor of the room and, well, generally how grotty your kitchen and bathroom really are. I've fitted lights before, LED lamps, especially earlier on when the technology wasn't quite as evolved as it is today, and had various complaints from people to say they're too cold, they're too blue, they're too yellow, or even in one case they're too green. The light output was too green for the person, and I had to go back and change them for a different kind of lamp. And it's been a bit of a thorn in the side when it comes to installing LED lamps. These days it's not so bad. You can buy good quality LED lamps with outputs that are very similar to what you get from a halogen bulb, which is basically what people expect to see when they turn on the light. So generally, if you stick to those sort of things, then you don't get too many problems. But people get used to the way a room is illuminated, and if you make any change to the ambience of that room, then it can be a bit of a shock for them. It doesn't mean that they can't get used to it over time, of course. If you did put cool white lamps in a room, then people would initially perhaps be shocked because they're used to it being illuminated in a warm white colour. But over a few days they would get used to it. It would become the new norm, and it would bed down and settle in. But of course, if you care about your customers, you'll be fitting the kind of lamps that they want, and not just whatever you happen to have in stock at the time. So these things are there to solve a problem. Is it a problem that really exists these days? I'm not so sure it is. Now, the way it solves the problem is by offering a range of colour temperatures in one light bulb. So this light bulb will put out warm white, cool white, or daylight white, depending on what you want, which seems a bit, well, interesting really. Here's CEF's actual flyer on it. They've got a promotion at the moment. It is a new product line for them, and indeed, as far as I know, it's a new technology, because I've not seen this kind of thing done before. So it's interesting that both Edmondson's and CEF are pushing it at the same time. It's they probably all come from the same factory in China, and they're just branded differently for all I know, but fairly pricey compared to what I normally pay for LED lamps. I can get branded lamps that are cheaper, but of course you're getting a 3-in-1 lamp here in effect, because you can choose what colour temperature you want it at. And I'm going to plug it into my board here, my little demonstration board, and show you what I mean. I'm just going to turn off the overhead light. And this might be quite bright for the camera, but if I switch that on, that's a very yellow, warm white colour. Now if I switch it off and on again within 10 seconds, what we have now is a much whiter colour. This is the cool white output. And if I do it for a third time, it's cooler again. I don't know how well this is going to come out on the iPad camera, but I can tell you that up close and personal you can see a very definite difference. If I switch that back now, I'm sure that even on the iPad camera here, it's picking up the difference between the warm white and the daylight option. So a quick switch press within 10 seconds will cause the light output to change. If you walk away and then you come back to it, it will remember the last setting that it was on. All well and good. There's just a couple of queries, a couple of concerns really I have regarding this. First of all, I wonder how easy it is for them to go out of sync. Like for today, for example, I've installed 9 downlights in somebody's dining room, and if I'd have used this lamp, I wonder whether there would be the problem that, say, 3 of them came on one day as cool white and the rest were all warm white, and you would have to physically remove the ones that were out of sync with the others and set them to the cycle you want. And I don't know, it all just seems like it could potentially go a little bit tits up really. Another thing is, how often have you left a room? You're in the room, you've gone out, oh hang on, I need to pop back in and get, oh hang on, change the lights to a bloody different colour now, and then you've got to start cycling through them again to get it to the colour that you want it to be. I can see this being a cause for some marital strife, mainly because in my experience it tends to be the ladies who like the warmer white colours and the men who like the cooler white colours. Either that or the blokes don't seem often to be too bothered, but it's when someone's complained to me about lighting colour in the past, it tends to be the lady of the house, and I don't know, I can just see that there could be arguments about different people wanting different rooms lit in different ways, and it all just going a bit pear-shaped really. Whereas if the option's not there and you just have a set colour of lamp, a warm white or whatever that's fitted, it's probably just going to go unnoticed and light the room as it always did, and no one's going to care less. So I probably won't be buying these other than this one here, which I bought for the purposes of playing with. But it also makes me wonder how this works. Are there actually 3 different sets of LEDs in here? Because that potentially, again, it creates a bit of e-waste really. If they've done that by having 3 different LED chipsets in there, then if you put this in somewhere and say, right, choose which colour you want, and they settle on a colour and they sort of stick with it, and then you kind of got 3 lamps in one package, of which you're only ever burning away one of those lamps. The others are never seeing well, the light of day, so to speak. So it's good as a demonstration lamp, and that's what I've got it for here. I can go to people and say, okay, what lighting do you want in your room? What are you more comfortable with? What looks best? And then perhaps go and choose the kind of lamps that they actually require. So it's not the kind of thing that I would put in a large overhead arrangement, but it's still an interesting idea. But yeah, not one that's going to take off, I wouldn't have thought. Well, curiosity got the better of me, and I had to pop that lens off to see how the thing ticked. And sure enough, we have 2 different kinds of LED within the lamp here. You can see that the some of them have a different phosphorus coating to the others. So let's. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put a bit of acrylic over this so that we can hopefully see the LEDs in action. Now what we have here are the daylight LEDs. So they're the ones with the a very light white output. Switching it again, that switches on the yellow LEDs to give us our warm white output, and you'll notice, well, you may notice the spacing is different, so that's a different set of LEDs. So only one set of LEDs is on the daylight setting or on the warm white setting. Now if we switch it again to the cool white, you can see there's far more elements on there. The cool white actually switches both sets of LEDs on. So only in the cool white setting would you make maximum use of the electronics that are actually in this thing. On the other 2 settings, you've got, if you're using them all the time, then effectively you've got a bunch of LEDs that are redundant and doing nothing. Does it matter? Well, again, it could be a bit wasteful. You could argue. Personally, I'd rather have a lamp that was being 100% utilised and not have component parts that weren't. I suppose you could say maybe possible to extend the life of the lamp, because if one colour temperature fails for whatever reason, because of a duff element or whatever, then you may be able to switch it to one of the other settings and get more use out of it. Yeah, I'm not convinced. Like I say, good as a demonstration piece, but I wouldn't be putting them in anywhere because of the fear of them going out of sync, or just of someone phoning me up saying, "Look, we're having arguments about how we like this room, or it's lighting in a different way to we expect. We thought it was on warm white, and next time we went in there, it was on cool white because the kids have been playing with it or whatever." Yeah, it's just raises too many issues for my tastes.